Coach Dan here, going over technique. What we want to talk about is one of the important movement patterns that most people struggle with. So if you watch the other video on movement, we want to talk about movement patterns, and so one of the movement patterns is the hip hinge. A lot of people struggle with that one, primarily because they sit at a desk all day long, which puts them in a squatted pattern. So when we sit or do certain things over and over again, our body tends to adapt to that position, leaving tight muscles in the front and weak muscles in the back. So the hinge is difficult. Now, the reason why we do the hinge is because it is such an amazing exercise. It's going to help develop your posterior chain muscles, which are your glutes, your backside, that's posterior chain, your hamstrings, your rector spinae, all these stabilizer muscles in the back that help with posture. They eliminate pain, and they strengthen the muscles that are basically lengthened because you're sitting primarily most of the day. Now, some of this may not apply to you guys. There's nurses out there that are active and busy and stuff like that. But for the majority of most people, we just don't use these muscles enough. Even if you stay active, we don't use them enough. So they become lengthened. And when we sit at a desk all day long, these muscles become lengthened. They become weak. They lose their elasticity. And so the deadlift is great for engaging those muscles and strengthening them. When you deadlift and you lift in a good amount of weight, you're also going to be required to use every single muscle from your head to your toe. That means your core, from the front to the back to the sides, everything, your glutes, your hamstrings, a little bit of your quads, your shoulders, and that's why it's such a beneficial compound exercise, because it's going to require to use a lot of muscles, which means they're going to get stronger, you're going to get better posture, and you're going to eliminate and reduce pain that way. You're also going to do a lot of other great things for your body in terms of improving overall strength, calorie burn, because you're lifting more, requires more energy, builds more muscle, burns more fat, okay? So you see, the idea here is to be able to get good at these movements, and this is the biggest one most people struggle with. So we're going to give you one little technique you can use at home. It's called the hip hinge drill. Now, the hip hinge drill is designed to get you to just get your hips moving backwards, okay? So from the lateral view, it's basically going to look like this. At home, you're going to have a wall behind you, and you're only going to start out about 3 to 4 inches away from the wall. You're going to pull the shoulders back, engage your shoulder blade muscles, and you're just going to push back through the hips while I'm keeping a nice flat back, slightly bending the knees until I can touch the wall with my glutes. And then I'm going to drive it forward, locking out the knees, squeezing the glutes, okay? Again, it's just going to look like this. One more. Okay, so at home, you're just going to use a wall for feedback. We're going to go narrow stance, toes are in a straight line, in line with the knees, ankles, and hips. Shoulders are pulled back. And I'm just going to push back through my hips. Now I can easily touch the wall there, so I'm going to move forward just about a ½ inch. I'm going to reach back. Okay, that was a little bit more of a struggle. Now I'm starting to feel my hamstrings engaged. Your hamstrings are the muscles right below your butt that are attached to the back of your knee. These are the muscles we need to be able to feel. Okay, I'm going to get a few more in there so I can feel it. All right, then just a little tiny step forward. Boom, we're really going to reach back. Okay, good. Now I can really feel my hamstrings pulling, and that's what we want to feel. And then on the other side, we want to make sure we're driving those hips forward, shutting the door, locking out the knees, and squeezing the glutes. So it's going to look like this from the side. Nice neutral neck, ears, shoulders, hips, all in a straight line. Boom, locking out forward. We don't want to lean backwards. That's going to put an arch in your back, and that's going to hurt your low back. So we need to make sure we lean forward, push the hips back, boom, okay? Eyes, floor, wall, floor, wall, okay? So the next thing you need to do is work on getting those hips behind you, okay? Very minimal knee bend, maximal pushing back through the hips, hinging at the hips, okay? So the reason why this is important is because we're going to be doing deadlifting, we're going to be doing swings, and a couple other things that are going to require a hip hinge pattern and a knowledge and understanding of that, okay? So we try and work people in through this and get them up and running, but sometimes people need more work, or we just run a program and they don't get the proper education first. So use this video to your benefit, okay? I want you to practice those wall touches at home, 2 to 3, 4 sets of 8 to 10, okay? And then progressively just moving a little bit forward until you feel those hamstrings engage, okay? All right, so what that would look like, you know, with the kettlebell, that's what we do in here from the front. So I'm gonna take a look at my feet. If I look at them, draw a line up from my toes to my knees to my hips, basically all in a straight line. Knees are gonna be tracking out a little bit. I'm gonna come back into my hinge and then grab the kettlebell, and I'm gonna pull and engage all my muscles before I even move. So all my muscles are engaged. I can feel them in my back, in my shoulders, in my chest, in my legs, and I'm just gonna drive up, straight forward, and then pushing it back down to the floor, hips going backwards, driving up and out, okay? Now, from a lateral view, side view, guys, not much changes here. If you look at my ears, shoulders, back, all in a straight line. My knees are tracking behind my toes. My hips are back, and I drive up, finishing in a straight line, up and down. Hips go back, as my eyes come down, driving forward. And last but not least, elbows and knees are finishing together. So I'm not finishing out here like this. Every time I do this, you can tell my back isn't engaged. Every time I pick up, I'm gonna go ahead and use my core instead. And that's where you're gonna get an injury, okay? So if you've been here long enough, 1 week, 2 weeks, you know we really, what we call is nitpick, but it's really about helping you do things the right way, teach you how to do it so you understand how to do it the right way and get better, so that way you prevent injury, you can maximize your workouts, because the heavier you lift, the stronger you get, the more calories you can burn, the safely you can do it, okay? And of course, building muscle comes along with that, which from every person that I talk to tells me when they come in, they want to tone, which is muscle, okay? You have to put on muscle, you have to get rid of that body fat, and it's a 2-step process, and we'll take you through that. The longer you're here, the more successful you're gonna be, okay? So that is your hip hinge, your deadlift, your swings, things like that we'll be using. That is one of the 7 human movement patterns, okay? So I want you to practice those wall touches and then implement that in class, so that way you can get better at that, you can understand it, and then of course that's gonna help us be able to move through the class more freely and allow for a better training experience all across the board, okay? So hopefully that taught you something, and we'll be seeing you in the next video, okay? Thanks.